Welcome back. So this week I'm going to be working on setting up the database for my app. You can see I have Jira up here. It's really just like a quick, simple story room database to store information, includes date, time, focus, energy, motivation, whatever. It's going to remember everything. I'm starting with the database because I think that this is going to be a lot easier, just kind of building from the bottom up, just the foundation there. And the database is kind of going to be the foundation of it. The other thing that I want to draw your attention to, if I can pull it up, is I did do a little bit of an update to the design. I think this is a whole lot better, where I put the day of the week up here and then the date. I kind of grabbed this a little bit from Google's Google Calendar app. Then the dates are all here, and then you can select on those and you can see that. And then this icon, if the user taps on that, that's going to take them to their current date. I like this. I think I like this. I'm going to go with this a little more, or maybe I'll be playing around with it a little as I go. But anyway, so let's get going on the room database. So one of the first things, if you haven't looked at Room and you want really kind of want to get an idea of what it is, basically it's an abstraction layer that sits on top of SQLite, and then it will give us much easier access to everything. The queries are compile time verified. The entities or tables are very nice and clean data and such. So that's kind of why we're using it and why they came up with it. It is so nice. I remember years ago when we were trying to do SQLite by our own and by on our hands, and there was just so many errors, and now we don't have to do it so much. So let's get going. There's actually a couple things that we need to do first. With the database, I have this kind of scratch thing. I like to think of databases in terms of spreadsheets, and it's a lot easier for me to visualize the data that way. And I kind of came up with these columns here for the database. Each entry is going to need a date and then a time. I separated them out specifically because I want to be able to grab the user's specific time at any point, date. I want to separate things by date, and then I want to separate it by time because I want to be able to grab the dates on their own. And then I've got columns for their energy, focus, and motivation at that point. I could easily create a column for average, like their average of those three at that time, but that doesn't make much sense. It's a trivial calculation. So, but one of the big things that I need to do is I need date to be a date, and I need time to be a time. Well, the problem is that SQLite doesn't have that for us. MySQL does, and SQL does, and Postgres does. All these other ones do, but SQLite doesn't. And so we have to come up with what's called a type converter, where we convert the time to something else and the date to something else. I like this article by Chris Baines, Room Plus Time. He goes into a lot of detail about type converters and why to use them, what to do. Specifically, even goes into the which date time to use and everything. And then we're gonna kind of dive into that. We're gonna play with that, and then I'm also kind of going to show you some testing and how to test your database, or at least how I quickly test it. It's going to be based off of Florina Montanescu's article, using and testing Room Kotlin APIs. Florina is fantastic. Like, every time any article she writes, I don't know how she's able to do it. She can just kind of relay the information in such a very nice, simple, broken down way to understand what's going on. She's very good at it. So any article that you see from her, you know it's going to be good. All right. So we do need to make a couple of updates though to to the project itself. So let's go to the build.gradle file first. Oop, wrong one. So one of the big nice things is that we are able to use Java 8 now, but part of the problem with using Java 8 is sometimes some of the information does not go back far enough. So one nice feature with Java 8 is that is when they introduced the new time package and time information. If you're using date still or calendar, you're wrong. I'm serious. You're wrong. You need to switch, and you really need to do it right now, because Java time is fantastic and it handles everything that you need for you. Now, there are a few little instances where you have to use date or calendar, but not too often. Now, for the longest time, we weren't able to use it because we were still stuck on Java 6 and then Java 7, and now we're up to Java 8 on Android, and Java 8 allows us to bring this in. Now, part of the difficulty, though, with Java 8, if I were to go in here and let's go to, where's my main activity, and I were to try and use something like val formatter equals date, or date time formatter dot ISO offset time, or this, well, it should be throwing an error, but it's not. But you're going to get an error with this, or let's see, off ISO offset date time. Let me rebuild real quick. Okay, don't care. All right, let's go and just make an MP Android chart go away for a little bit, because apparently there's some issues with oops. Well, it's going to build anyway because it's going to sync and build at the same time. Give it a second. Okay, let's see. Val formatter equals date time. Yep. Dot. All right, so here we go. This is where the issue comes up. It tells me that it requires API level 26 and above to actually work. Well, unfortunately, I'm targeting API 24 and up. Well, we can get around this. I don't like unused, by using what's called desugaring. And you can read all about it in here, and you can read all about desugaring on Androids. I'm not really going to dive into that. So I have to go in and actually tell it, hey, use core library desugaring enabled. Scroll up here to the compile options, and then I'm going to pull in the desugaring library. And I'm not going to put this into the dependencies file because it's going to apply to everything with this. So we'll go ahead and sync. And if I were to go back to my main activity and just do like val formatter equals date time formatter dot, and it'll be just fine like it was before. Cool, right? All right. Next thing that I want to do is, I forgot that I have to include the room annotations when I go and do all that. So we're going to do capped annotations values. And then we're going to do also Android test implementation, test dependencies, dot values. All right, cool. So that's going to apply all of our test dependencies to the Android test, because, well, I'm going to be using that. Just want to make this look nice and pretty. I like pretty stuff. Okay, another thing is I need to add the room test dependency. So we'll go over here, scroll down. I think she has it in hers. Article? No. Oh well. Easy enough to look this up. All right, so Android room test and debug your database with Android. Scroll down. Oh man, they don't make it easy to find some of these dependencies, do they? All right, so that's going to take that there. Oh, right, here we go. So I'm just going to grab this, put that in there. Oops. Let's see. I think I did. Yep. Then the other thing that I want to add to my test dependencies is there's this awesome library out there called AssertK. And it's basically fluent assertions. It makes things very easy. So you can say assert that person's name is equal to Alice. Like, very nice. It's really easy. I like it a lot. I'm going to include it. So I'm going to grab the dependency. And then assert K X def assert K version assert K version. All right, cool. Then I got to make sure that I include Maven Central because that's where they have that. There it is. And we'll sync. Okay, looks like everything's good. I'm going to redo a quick rebuild, just let that run. All right, first step is going to be creating the tables or the entity for the database. So I'm going to go and I'm going to create a new package. I'm going to call this database and then new class. Oops, not Java class. And then it's going to be called entry. We're going to just call them entry. Keep it simple. It's really easy. All right, look, built nicely. Cool. Add, and then this needs to be annotated as an entity for room. I like to name these, so I'll give my tables names on my own. So something like entry. All right, this needs to be a data class. Okay, first one is going to be date. So I'm going to go at column info name equals date. Again, for whatever reason, I just like to specify it and have a lot of control over it. So date, and it needs to be an offset date time. There's a reason I use offset date time, and it's because it preserves the time zone for where the user is. So if we go over to here and then we kind of look at, all right, we have offset date time and we have offset time. Unfortunately, we don't have offset date, whatever. Basically a date time with an offset from the UTC time. So that way, again, it preserves the time zone, the user's time zone. It's always, and the users, we're always going to be aware of the user's time zone. I have to say that multiple times for some odd reason. All right, name equals time. Next is going to be the time one. Val time, offset time. And then next is going to be column info name equals energy. Val energy. Energy is going to be int at column info name equals energy time focus. Focus. It's going to be an int at column info name equals motivation. Val motivation. Can I type? Yes. But I can't spell. Okay, finally, what we want to do is we want to provide what's called a primary key. Primary keys are very nice and quick and easy in databases to help organize things and look rows within tables. I don't want that to be a part of the constructor, though. I want it to be auto-generated. So I'm going to do at primary key auto-generate true. And then it's going to be a var id int equals 0. I think I got that right. And the reason why it's a member is, again, because I don't want it to be a part of the constructor, because when I go and build out an entry, I don't want to have to pass in a number. I want this to be set appropriately on its own, and it can't be a val because it has to be handled and has to be set by the database itself when it's getting inserted into the database. Now, I could conceivably go and move this up into here and then have a factory method where it takes this in and it just gets a 0 and everything. That's fine. I mean, it's really not that complicated of a class. So there. You'll note I used offset time for time because I just don't need the date information in there at all. So the next thing that I need to do is set up a type converter that will convert these offset date time and offset times to something that the database can handle. I would prefer a string because that's much more readable when I go and examine the database itself than an integer. A more precise one would be like epoch millis, number of milliseconds since the epoch, Jan 1. Yeah, January 1st, 1970 at midnight, whatever that is. Anywho, so we'll create type of converters. I'm just going to go create a Kotlin class called converters. It's going to be an object. Cool. Let's see, we're going to do private val date formatter equals date time formatter dot ISO offset date time, and then private val time formatter equals date time formatter dot ISO offset time. Cool. I can't use date. I can't use ISO offset date because that's going to miss the time zone that this was set into. All right. So first thing I need to do is do type converter at JVM static. The reason why I'm saying JVM static is because it's just a nice little optimization for this function. Let's see, we're gonna do two date time, two offset date time, and it's gonna go bring in a value string. And it's gonna return an offset date time, return value dot let, and then we'll just do, because I don't want to deal with this potentially returning nulls, I'm going to say it's going to do a return like just a simple now. Next thing I need to do is actually convert the string into that. So it's going to be let's see, date formatter dot parse it, and then I'm going to pass in date formatter parse, right? Yes. Well, maybe. Hold on. Format. Okay, so that's not playing nice. I think I'm forgetting something. Date time formatter dot parse. Let's go look at the reference real quick. This guy. Let formatter dot parse from. Not format, from. Wait, what? Oh, right. Haha, wrong thing. Offset datetime from. There we go. Handles everything. Now at type converter from offset date time date offset date time string. We'll set this to handle that just in case. Actually, you know what? No, it's not going to. It should not have to. So we do return date dot date formatter dot parse, right? No, format. Yep, date. That should do it. Double check myself. Yes. Okay. And then at type converter. Oops, I forgot JVM static here. JVM static fun to offset set time value, and it's going to basically be the same thing, but just a slightly different offset time. So we'll copy, paste, and then delete the date from here and here. All right, cool. We'll do the same thing with this. Just copy and paste and make the update. All right, so I do need to make sure that's time formatter though. Ta-da! All right, cool. Next, I'm going to be creating the DAO, the data access object, and that's what's going to allow us to look stuff up and insert things into the database. So, class u DAO. Let's see, it's an interface at DAO. I can go and do a quick double check right over here to make sure I'm going to set up the DAO correctly. DAO query and insert. All right, cool. Let's see. At query, so I'm going to be querying the database, and it's going to be select everything from entry. Let's call this entries. There we go. From entries where date is date. All right, so it's giving me a little bit of error because I haven't written. So suspend for coroutines because I'm going to be using coroutines. Get all entries for date, offset, date time. Turn a list of entry. Ta-da! All good. So this refers to here. And then I'm going to insert. Insert. Suspend fun. Insert all var arg entry. Cool. Reason I'm using var args is because then I can use a ton of other stuff, and then I could like use the spread operator to. Anyway, you'll see. It's really nice. So now I actually need to set up the database. So go here, do class u rhythm database. Yeah, class. All right, so at, I think it's database. Yep, database. In this case, it needs the entity. It needs to know what the entities are, and the entities are going to be just entry class. Ta-da! Let's see, missing something. Oh yeah, version 1. Cool. Then I have to specify the type converters. Converters. Yes. All right, cool. And then this needs to be an abstract class because room is going to create that for us, and needs to inherit from room database. Yes. All right, cool. Let's see, abstract fun, get u rhythm DAO. It returns a u rhythm DAO. All right, that should be everything. Let's rebuild the project, get the annotation processor processing, and making sure that everything got set up properly. Looks like it worked. Awesome. Okay, now that that's done, everything's good, the database is set up. Boom, I can start storing my data as the user enters. I think I've got everything. So now what I want to do is I actually want to write a test for the database. Make sure that things are being entered in correctly. A lot of this is going to be because I want to test the type converters and make sure that the type converters are working appropriately. So I can actually, let's see, let's go to the converters. I think I can unit test the type converters. It shouldn't be too difficult. Do-do-do. So let's go and write up a unit test. Package. Database. New. Kotlin class. Let's see. Converters. Test. All right. So. All right. Cool. Let's see. At test fun. Import. Let's see. What are we going to call this? So first one I want to test is this to offset date time one. So let's say we're getting a date, an appropriate date. It's going to convert it to the correct offset date time. So let's see. When given a good date, it is converted to the correct offset date time. All right, so we're gonna do companion object, private val date one equals offset date time dot of let's see, we're gonna do 20, 21, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, zone offset UTC. All right, cool. Let's see, val. Let's think about this for a second. So we're going to create a string and pass that into the converter, and then we're going to get an offset date time and then verify that that is the correct thing. So val, let's see, we'll go string to test equals, let's see, I think it's, if I go over to here, I should be able to select, take this, kind of get an idea of what that string should be. Oops. 21, 1 should be a 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. All right, and that should be it. Actually, it's probably that. Let's see, val actual date equals type. Or sorry, converters dot to offset date time string to test, then assert that actual date is to import dot equals date one. Is equal to. There we go. Then I can run it and we'll see if it actually works. All right, failed Y. Let's see. Expected. Right. Okay. Because I put this is at 1 a.m. or 1 in the morning. All right, cool. There we go. That worked. Let's go back to this, and I just want to kind of show you how nice assert K is. See, it shows you this is what the expected value was, and this is what the actual one is. So assert that this is equal to this. Camera cut off there for a second. All right, so it just kind of makes those assertions for us. Really nice, right? Cool. All right. At test fun when given a null. Well, actually, when I'm given a good date, we're going to call it string. When I'm given a null string, it is converted to the correct offset date. The current offset date time. And then we'll do like val actual date equals, let's see, val expected date equals offset date time dot now. Exactly what I would recommend, but it's kind of what we have at the moment. So converters dot to offset null, then assert that actual date dot is equal to expected date. And then I can run this test. It did not work because the exact timing. See how they were slightly off. Okay, so what I can do is a couple things. Really, what I'm concerned about is just making sure that these first three numbers are the same. So what I can do is assert all. Let's see. Expected dot year equals actual date dot year. This is gonna give me a little bit of a hard time. Unused equals expression. Let's go to assert K and check the assert all. See what they say. Yeah, assert that. So assert that is equal to, and then I can copy this multiple times, and then we'll do month, then day of month, day of month. I could actually probably combine these two to day of year, but show you this real quick. See, and it passed, and then we could do day of year, day of year. All right, there we go. I'm going to go and I'm going to write up all the rest of the tests for this, and then I will quickly walk through how I'm going to test the database. So see you in a few minutes. All right, cool. So now I have everything properly tested and it's working. I'm pretty confident in my type converters. I could probably write a ton more tests, but there's really no need as far as I'm concerned. Now to quickly just go through and show how we can properly test our database, specifically using Florina Montanescu's example here, where she has everything. You can kind of see So what she's got here, first up, we're going to end up having to create the database here, and then we're going to have to close it out, make sure that we do close it, because if we don't, we're going to end up with a memory leak in our tests, and that's just not appropriate. Okay, so in this case, it is an instrumented test, so it has to be in the Android package itself, because Room only works on Android. Doesn't work in unit tests. All right, so let's see. I'm going to new rhythm DAO test. Let's see, at run with, actually, let's go to the example real quick and grab this run with. Yep, all right, cool. All right, so private late init var, DAO is going to be your rhythm DAO, private late init var, db is going to be u rhythm database, at b4, fun, create, database. So we're going to go, let's see, val context equals Android, applicate, I cannot spell, application provider dot get application context, and it's going to be a context because we need the context to actually create the database. Let's see, db equals u rhythm database dot, wait, I forget, what does she have? Of course, room dot in memory. It needs to be an in-memory one because we're not going to actually be storing this locally. We're just going to be storing it within the RAM of the device, and we want to get rid of it as soon as possible. So that's why we do that. U rhythm database class .java allow main thread queries. So it's going to be running on the main thread. That way we're not necessarily going to be hung up on everything, but yeah. Build DAO, and now we're going to get it. So db get that down. Now we want to shut everything down. So we'll do the after fun destroy database. db close. Maybe destroy is a bad phrase. We'll just go close. All right, cool. Now we have to write our test. So at test fun. Unfortunately, I can't use the fun little backticks because that's just not allowed on the Android side of things. So whatever. Let's see. Entry is properly inserted. We'll go equals run blocking, and the reason why I'm going to be doing the run blocking is because on the DAO everything is using a code routine, so it has to be run using a code routine scope. So we're going to do val entry equals entry. I'm going to go back to my converters test, and I'm going to grab these times. Companion object. There we go. It's going to be, let's see, date equals date 1, time equals time 1. Energy, we're going to go 5, focus 5, and then motivation 5. Cool. Now we insert, so DAO dot insert all entry. Now we're going to pull it up. So val entries equals DAO dot get all entries, and we want to do it for date 1. And then we're going to do assert that entries dot contains. So this is why assert k is so nice. It can actually check and test that our using extension functions and everything, that our list contains exactly what we are expecting. So we'll do this, and now I'm going to run. And I have my emulator up, right? Yes. So this should be fairly smooth. Cool. Looks like everything tested properly. Yep. Test pass. Cool. Not really that like special of a test. It's just testing to make sure that we're entering and getting something from the database, which we are, and we're getting the right information from the database as well. So let's test. Let's see. Test fun. Ensure we only get entries for specific date. Let's run blocking. All right, so now here I'm going to actually change things up. I'm going to create a second date. We're going to go 1, 2. There we go. We're going to call this date 2, and then I'm going to create a couple of entries and add all of them. So let's see. Val entries equals list of, and this also has the really nice handy aspect of testing or vararg part of it, which technically we don't really need to test, but whatever, we're kind of testing that anyway at this point. So I'm gonna go, let's see, we're gonna copy this. Time dot plus hours 1. Plus hours 2, and then I'm going to entry date equals date 2, time equals time 1, and then there we go. So now we have our list of entries, and then I'm going to go DAO.insert all, and then entries. All right, and this is going to give me a little bit of an error because it is a vararg. So I'm going to use my spread operator. Oh, well, to typed array. Boom. So what I did here is I converted the list to a typed array, and then I used the spread operator to spread everything out. Double check. Yep, I do need it. Now I'm going to get everything. So we're going to do 2 assertions. I'm going to do an assert where I'm going to grab these 3 and make sure that I have those 3. And then I'm going to do another one where I'm going to grab this and make sure I have that. So val entries for first date equals DAO dot get all entries for date 1. And then I'm going to do assert all, assert that entries for first date dot size is equal to 3. Assert that entries for first date dot take, I'm going to take the first 3 is equal to entries dot take 3. And then I'm going to do val entries for second date equals DAO dot get all entries for date 2. Assert all again, and we're basically, it's just going to be the same thing. Second one. Contains only think I should be able to do last, right? Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and test this out and see if this actually works. Hey, it actually passed the first time around. That makes me happy. So we can kind of test to make sure that it is working and that I am doing that by just changing one of these numbers real quick. And you can see a failure. And it kind of says expected 2, but was 1. All right. So that's basically it. That's all there is to setting up the database and doing everything. I'm calling this done. I think these tests are pretty quick and simple, and I really don't need too much more beyond this. At some point, if I'm going to change the database, I am going to want to do a migration test, which is a huge deal. If you don't do migration tests, you're kind of screwing yourself. All right. There you go. I'm calling this done. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to move this over to the done column. All right. Let's see. Anything else that I want to do with this? No, that's it. That's it for today. That's me setting up the database. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you saw something kind of cool. Go back, watch this. If you like this and you want to see more in this series, please hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to know every time that I post another video. Hit the like button. That really does help this channel out and helps spread this information to those who may not have seen it. If you know someone who you think would find this valuable, please share it with them. That would be awesome. I really would love that, and make my day. Otherwise, I will see you in next time around.